this two-part review of Roland Emmerich's disaster movie, figuratively and literally, 2012. When you're a man who thrives on causing destruction like Roland Emmerich, you need to get creative, especially since you've had aliens blow up the major cities, a giant lizard tear holes in New York, and global warming terrorise the planet. Where do you go from there? Well, you create a super disaster movie, of course. And that's exactly what Emmerich did, capitalising and exploiting on the 2012 conspiracy theories as the thinly veiled excuse for this. Emmerich's also back with his partner Harrelson, who worked with him on the immensely stupid 10,000 BC, and somehow this manages to outdo that one in the idiocy stakes. So strap in, folks, because it's the end of the world and I'm feeling mighty pissed off. So the film begins in India in 2009 with Dr. Adrian Helmsley, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Really, man? I saw you play Othello on the London stage and you were amazing! What the hell happened?
Hey, watch out, watch out!
Foreshadowing! Adrian is meeting with his friend Dr. Satnam, played by Jimmy Minstrey. Satnam takes Adrian down to his lab, located in an old underground mine, the deepest in the world. There, he reveals bad news, which proves Roland doesn't give a shit about science.
The biggest sun eruptions in human history. That's not what worries me, Adrian. For the first time ever, the neutrinos are causing a physical reaction. This water tank goes down another 6,000 feet. It looks like the neutrinos coming from the sun have mutated into a new kind of nuclear particle. They're heating up the Earth's core and suddenly act like microwaves.
If the neutrinos were heating up the Earth's core, I think we'd have much bigger problems like being incinerated. This news makes Adrian rush to Washington.
Tonight, with your extraordinary generosity, we have raised $1.7 million.
I'm a slimy, money-grubbing politician. Can't you tell I'm all about the money? This is Carl Anheuser, played by Oliver Platt, who gives the film a far better performance than it deserves. Anheuser reads the findings and puts Adrian to work for the US government. The president, Thomas Wilson, played by Danny Glover, reveals at the 2010 G8 summit that the world as we know it is coming to an end, as we see preparations being made. We finally end up in 2012, where we meet an unsuccessful author, Jackson Curtis, played by John Cusack in California. Yes, his name is 50 Cent's real name reversed. Emmerich's a fan, apparently. And yes, he shares the same initials as John Cusack, so he's playing himself again, and later on, he'll begin to resemble another JC. And why yes, Jackson is a negligent father, and is late for picking his ex-wife's kids up for a trip to Yellowstone. Oh, and the oldest child doesn't like him very much.
How are you, sweetie?
Good. Jackson, what is this?
Please don't call me that. I'm your dad.
If this seems the slightest bit familiar to you, then congratulations, you saw Steven Spielberg's War of the Worlds. Jackson's ex, Kate, played by Amanda Peet, also has a new boyfriend, Gordon. Obviously, we're not meant to like him because he's a surgeon.
So, look, oh yeah, you tell her.
Tell me what?
She needs to put these on every night before she goes to sleep.
Still?
Yes, your 7-year-old daughter still wets her bed. Maybe that's something you should know.
Movie, this is a little bit too much information, and yes, there is a character arc about a kid wetting the bed. It's every bit as ludicrous as it sounds. Elsewhere, a group of jazz musicians, one of them played by George Segal, are about to board a cruise ship.
There we are. So he married a Japanese girl. How is that the end of the world? Come on, Tony, you should at least go see him.
You see your boy?
Not as much as I'd like, but at least we talk.
About what?
Life. And how short it is. What the hell was that?
Oh, very cute. And what are the chances that a global disaster will force them to reconcile with their estranged offspring? At the White House, Adrian informs the president that he got the timescale wrong and that the impending disaster is likely to occur even sooner than anticipated. It's at this point that the president's daughter, Laura, played by Thandie Newton, walks in. You see, Laura was supervising moving the paintings in the Louvre to the Swiss Alps. The curator discovered, however, that the paintings were not going to the Alps, but before he could hold a press conference, his car is blown up by by a bomb. Laura is understandably miffed by this.
Coincidentally, his death took place in the same Paris tunnel where Princess Diana died in 1997.
First of all, if you were planning to assassinate someone, why would you stage it in the same way as a high-profile death so it looks less like an accident? Second, Roland, how tasteless of you to dig up this tragedy while simultaneously exploiting the conspiracy theories around it for your stupid movie. Top notch! The president decided to tell Laura the truth about what she was doing. Wait, she didn't know? Did she not get a hint when she secretly moved and replaced the paintings in the Louvre?
What we need to do is focus on this timeline. That's what we need to do.
So when do we let the country know?
What do you mean?
The people, sir. They need to know.
Oh, that's a great idea, isn't it? There won't be any mass panic or rioting, will there? Let's have things turn to shit before they hit the fan. So Jackson is taking his kids to Yellowstone, where he stumbles onto a conspiracy theory radio broadcast.
There's been government people flying in and out all morning, and trust me, they did not look happy. Always remember, folks, you heard it first.
Yeah, just when you said that?
From Charlie.
Wait, hang on. Charlie? Played by Woody Harrelson?
Charlie, you had plenty of opportunity, but you know what happens? You always fuck it up.
So that's what happened to Charlie for Money Train. I guess he squandered the money he stole. Jackson encounters a fence whilst wandering through Yellowstone. Jackson's first immediate instinct is to ignore the obvious warning signs and just climb over it. You do know that Yellowstone is a dormant supervolcano. If they have something fenced off, it's probably for a good reason. In fact, whilst we're acting like complete morons, let's find that old lake he used to go to, which has now mysteriously disappeared, and walk across the bubbling hot spring in its place, despite the dead deer on it. With your kids, no less. I can see why your wife left you if this is your idea of responsible parenting. The army swoops in and takes Jackson and the kids to Adrian, who is visiting the park, where it transpires that he is one of the few people who read Jackson's book Farewell Atlantis.
Let me ask you something. You really believe those people would behave so selflessly knowing that their own lives were at stake?
I hope so. The critics said I was naive and unabashed optimist. But what do they know, right?
Yes, Roland, what do we critics know about anything? I mean, it's not like you put Siskel and Ebert in one of your films as a charged attack now, is it? Clearly we know nothing. Adrian is told by Satnam that based on their findings, the Earth's crust is destabilising and that they have to start evacuating.
Well, our scientific advances. Our fancy machines, the Mayans saw this coming thousands of years ago.
And yet it's funny how they didn't see the collapse of their own civilization. Oh, and the Mayans didn't get it right either, because this movie takes place in the summer, not December. Charlie has been following Jackson.
Wait! Sorry. What did the government guys say to you?
They don't like us going over their fences and that the whole area back there is unstable.
They said unstable?
Yeah, unstable.
Okay, creepy weirdo, we're gonna move on now, before you wear my skin as a suit. Despite being told by a scientist working for the government that the area is unstable and it is likely a good idea to leave, Jackson decides to continue his camping trip. There he finds Charlie's RV nearby, which he broadcasts out of, who shows him a flash animation about the looming disaster.
A cataclysmic event will unfold caused by an alignment of the planets in our solar system that only happens every 640,000 years.
Oh, not again.
You lure them in with humor. Then you make them think.
I know exactly what you mean, mate. Somehow this character just speaks to me. Charlie also has a thing for pickles because... Well, moving on, Charlie shows Jackson a list of the people who were killed to keep the secret from getting out. By a massive coincidence, one of them is an old professor who Jackson knew, and by even further coincidence, sent Charlie a map of where the government is building spaceships. Remember, the conspiracy theorists were right! They were right! But then again, it doesn't surprise me that Roland is sympathetic to conspiracy theorists, since he is obviously one himself, judging by the way he put the Atlantis theory in 10,000 BC. Back in LA, while Kate is buying more supplies for their little bedwetter, she and Gordon talk about their relationship.
Hey, Kate, listen, we have to keep working at this. I mean, I don't know, honey, I just feel like there's something pulling us apart.
Don't let go!
Ugh, that gag was cringeworthy the first time, let alone the second cringeworthy time. Meanwhile, in Las Vegas, Russian billionaire Yuri attends a boxing match with someone named Zoltan.
Zoltan, girl tomorrow.
Sì, mi pare, non è sbieto, ne fanno cazzino,
Wow, with that paper-thin dialogue, I didn't see that coming. Oh, and this is the last time we ever hear of Zoltan. I guess he doesn't care about him if he gets defeated in a boxing match. Bye! As a result of the supermarket quake, Kate asks Jackson to bring the kids home. Jackson goes back to work, where, by sheer coincidence, he has to pick up Yuri's spoiled brat kids and drive them to the airport.
Hey, have a safe trip, you little bastard.
Now you're laughing, Curtis. But we have tickets to go on a big ship. We will live and you will die.
Not if the plane crashes first, you little shit. Jackson soon comes to realise that Charlie was telling the truth.
Oh, the authorities in LA say there's nothing to worry about. I'd love to see their dumb faces when Malibu and Beverly Hills get sucked into the gurgling maw of the Pacific.
How is Jackson picking up Charlie's tiny radio broadcast 1,000 miles away? So Jackson rushes over to rent a plane by handing the owner his watch. I'm not sure that's how it works, but just go with it.
Unlike many of the tough characters I have portrayed in my film.
Hello?
California is going down.
God, you sound like a crazy person. The governor just said we're fine now.
The guy's an actor. When they tell you not to panic, that's when you run.
Remember, the motto isn't keep calm and carry on, it's mass hysteria and panic!
It seems to me that the worst is over.
Not only is that the third time they've done that stupid gag, but that is the worst Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation I've ever seen! And why do we even have a Schwarzenegger impersonator? He's not going to be governor in 2012, you idiots! Sure enough, a megaquake hits LA. Jackson quickly arrives and grabs the family before their house crumbles apart.
Hold on to those eggs, dear.
Come on, your bags!
Take that, you old hags with no chance of survival! How dare you be on the same road as John Cusack!
Gotta get to Santa Monica Airport.
We'll take the freeway, it'll be half the time.
Yeah, right.
He's the new boyfriend, he has to be wrong. The freeway? In a massive earthquake? Are you a moron? Actually, this is the emptiest I've ever seen LA. Besides a few cars and running people, the streets are virtually empty. They arrive at the airport to discover their pilot is dead.
Who's that? Our pilot!
Gordon, you can fly?
No, I've only had a couple of lessons in a single engine plane only!
You've got basic flying experience, so you should be able to handle every plane ever made. Gordon manages to outrun the crack in the earth that persistently stalks them before the ground below them caves in, but keeps flying fairly low so he can have a nice good linger at the carnage unfolding. Hundreds of people are dying horribly, but who gives a shit? Jackson's family survived. And so LA slides into the ocean. Well, on the plus side, Lex Luthor should be pleased.
Otisburg? Where's this monster? She's got her own place, man. Otisburg? It's a little bitty place. Otisburg? Okay.
2 weeks lesson you learn. First you're up, then you're bust. Living life on a crust. But it ain't the end of the world, buddy.
Oh my god, Roland, I cannot believe you cut to that immediately after the death of hundreds. That was so tacky and ill-timed, I can't even believe you thought it was a good idea. And how is this ship sailing? Last time we saw it, it slammed into the dock, which probably severely damaged it. Why would you even go on it after that? Wouldn't it be a bad omen? It turns out one of the jazz musicians is Adrian's father, who tells him that the end is happening, and so we get a tearful reconciliation. This should be emotionally affecting, but I'm still reading from the joke a minute ago! Elsewhere, Jackson and company fly to Yellowstone. LA just slid into the ocean, and your first instinct is to go to Yellowstone? Oh my god, you're stupid! Jackson needs to find Charlie, specifically his map to the ships. They run to his RV, but he's not there, so they drive around trying to find him. They eventually find him on Mount Bighorn, overlooking the volcano, broadcasting commentary of the event. He tells them where it is, but wants to stay. So as Jackson rides away in the RV, the supervolcano erupts.
I wish you could see what
This movie is a bit like staring at Woody's butt crack for 2.5 hours. This one's for Money Train! So we get yet another run away from the disaster chasing behind us sequence, with Jackson driving the RV amongst falling debris to boot. But there's no tension. I think the main reason for this is the CGI. Don't get me wrong, it's good CGI, it really is, but we all know it's green screened in later. For example, Independence Day has a lot more visceral impact because they use scale models. It looks real, so when it's blown up, it has significance. The effects all being computer generated just take the fun out of it, it's just not the same. Jackson arrives at the airfield but still has to find the map in the RV. Unfortunately, the ground beneath him cracks apart. For a moment it looks like Jackson is a goner, but of course, Jackson is JC, so not only does he climb up to the surface, but he manages to outrun the ash cloud and catch up to the plane. Damn, he had a good chance in the 2012 Olympics before this happened. And here's another problem with the action scenes. Jackson is invincible. His close escapes are too frequent and too implausible, and the heavy use of green screen only makes it all the more artificial. I know you tried to make him identifiable and human, but by this point he's so invulnerable he might as well be wearing a red cape. And speaking of incredible, so is Gordon's flying. The guy's only had basic flight training, but he swerves around buildings and flying debris with a skill that would make a fighter pilot blush. Hell, it would make Maverick from Top Gun blush. In fact, he's such a super duper pilot, he manages to fly out of the ash cloud. See, the 2010 Icelandic ash cloud was nothing. All we needed was a bunch of plastic surgeons with basic flight experience and they would have got through it no problems at all. Back in the White House, Adrian and Carl watch TV footage of the carnage around the world, including laughably outdated stock footage of the UK. They decide it's time to evacuate the government, including the president.
Did you ever meet my wife, Dorothy?
No, sir. I didn't have that honor.
The night before she passed on, she took my hand and she told me, I think you should have a lottery. Everyone should have a chance to go.
Yeah, but then you would have been ripping off Deep Impact. The president decides he's going to stay with his people because he's too old for this shit. Adrian reveals this on Air Force One, where Carl confronts Adrian over telling his father.
Oh, come on, don't look so shocked. We had to monitor everybody you knew. How do you think we kept it a secret for so long?
So we just killed anybody who tried to talk?
They're an enemy of humanity.
The director of the Louvre was an enemy of humanity?
After he called a press conference, he was! What did you think? We're all just gonna get on board, hold hands, and sing Kumbaya?
You know what? Despite the fact he's depicted as a murdering slime ball, at least Carl is a realist. But of course, the film firmly sides with the humanitarian approach of Adrian and the president, even though it would have caused more panic and hysteria than keeping it secret. Back with Jackson and company, they discover that the ships are in China, so they need to get a bigger plane. They stop by Las Vegas airport where, by sheer coincidence, Yuri and his family are. Oh, and by even more coincidence, Gordon is the plastic surgeon to Tamara, Yuri's trophy girlfriend. Yes, we get it, we're all connected, but it comes off as massive contrivance. Yuri has a private plane, but he needs a co-pilot. Hey Gordon, get your ass over here! And so we get for the third straight time in a row a sequence where a plane has to outrun the massive disaster behind it, which is again the Yellowstone ash cloud. Good God, this movie's repetitive. We've seen this exact same set piece 3 times in 30 minutes. A malfunction forces the plane to fly low, which gives us another chance to salivate over the destruction, but it is soon rectified.
Is that the Eiffel Tower?
I think so.
Hundreds of people are dying beneath us. So the two families are starting to bond on the plane when the pilots make a shocking discovery.
What is that?
The state of Hawaii.
That is not good.
How much fuel do we have left? Not enough. We're going to have to make a water landing somewhere in South China Sea.
Personally, I'm more concerned with the fact that they've just been flying through an ash cloud. I think that's a bigger problem than refueling issues. Oh, and Hawaii is known for its volcanoes. You should have planned accordingly. Meanwhile, on Air Force One, Adrian tries to comfort Laura.
You're Da Vinci and Picasso, they're in. You're some nobody, you don't stand a chance.
That's not necessarily true. You ever hear of a writer called Jackson Curtis? What do you think the chances are of an unknown writer who barely sold 500 copies making it aboard this plane? This book is part of our legacy now. Why? Because I'm reading it.
What a coincidence! Jackson is not only still alive, but his massively unpopular book will be saved alongside works of art like Picasso and Da Vinci. Let's hope if this event actually happens, Roland Emmerich's films will be one of the masses of culture going up in smoke. On the cruise liner, George Segal's jazz musician phones his long-lost son in Tokyo.
Hi, Daddy.
Hello. Who is this?
This is Yoko Delgado. Do you want to speak to my daddy?
Putting aside the treacly sentimentality at this moment, why is the family asleep like nothing is happening? It's only the end of the world! But before he gets to speak to his son, a huge earthquake rocks them and kills them. No! It's all so sad! Actually, no it's not. It's hilarious. Meanwhile, if you're a fan of carnage porn, you'll love the sequence where the Vatican is destroyed.
The nuns at St. Agnes predicted this.
The Earth's crust begins to shift and move, creating giant mega tsunamis. That means our jazz musicians can finally do a reenactment of the Poseidon adventure. That was the whole point of this subplot, to reference another better film. Oh, and this subplot happens to lack emotional impact because Adrian, whose father just died, doesn't seem to show much sadness about it. Elsewhere, the President aids the survivors in Washington, now that the Yellowstone ash cloud has reached them. The mega tsunami reaches them, and they are crushed by the USS John F. Kennedy, taking the White House with it. Symbolism! Oddly enough, New York, which was briefly seen earlier, is not seen being destroyed in this film. Presumably New York was hit by the mega tsunami too, so I'm guessing that Roland didn't want to replicate the scenes he already did in The Day After Tomorrow. Back on the plane, it is running out of fuel, and they will soon have to make a crash landing.
Why do you hate Gordon?
What are you talking about? I don't hate him.
Well, you don't like him either.
Well, it's just because I don't know him that well. Maybe.
Yeah, but I do. It's really nice once you get to know him. You guys will get along really, really well.
This is an obvious ploy to get the character sympathy before we kill him off, is it?
I thought we were going to China.
No, we gotta land here. So that's what we're gonna do. We're just gonna all stay together, right?
Promise.
I promise you we're gonna all stay together, no matter what happens.
Well, I'm fucked. But of course they're not going to land in the South China Sea because the crust displacement has moved China close to them. How convenient! Even the Earth itself is aiding the bloody family. Unfortunately, the plane has no landing gear after what happened in Vegas. However, if you saw Die Another Day, you'll know what they're going to do next.
Look, make sure that everybody gets out of the plane before they touch down. What about you? I have to touch this paper down.
I've served my part in the plot, so now I have to die horribly. So the two families drive off the plane, which always looks spectacular when you add a dozen CGI cars crashing around it. Hey, maybe this incidental character won't die! Never mind. Oh my god, that has to be one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. First of all, the visual of a giraffe being airlifted over snowy mountains is preposterous because it would freeze to death. Second, shouldn't they have done this a long time ago before the Earth started dramatically shifting? Third, I'm pretty sure that there's more practical methods of shipping these animals than airlifting. If I was watching this in a cinema, this is the point where I would walk out. One of the Chinese helicopters spots them taking Yuri and his family. However, it seems he didn't buy a ticket for tomorrow.
It's a mistake!
What? The thing I didn't know about you and Sasha. May God bless that poor bastard soul.
She was sleeping with the pilot? It helps to establish these things. Of course he's Russian and therefore can't be trusted, so Yuri flies off, leaving the others to freeze to death in the mountains. Elsewhere, Air Force One has landed near the arks, which, contrary to what Charlie said earlier, are giant boats rather than spaceships. With the president dead, Anheuser is now in command. Ugh, do I even have to elaborate?
How are all these people chosen?
By experts from all over the world, we had geneticists determine the perfect gene pool we need to repopulate.
These people were chosen by geneticists?
All green card holders, please proceed to gallery D4.
Wow, that couldn't be perceived as being slightly racist.
Looks to me like their checkbooks got them on board.
That's right, Dr. Wilson. Without billions of dollars from the private sector, this entire operation would have been impossible.
We sold tickets. What about all these workers?
What? Life isn't fair?
I'm an evil money-grubbing antagonist.
What is this? You could fit 10 people in here.
How dare people have space, privacy and comfort?
Satnam, where are you?
On the Nampan Plateau.
What?
There's a tidal wave coming from the east.
Satnam, what happened?
We never got picked up, Adrian.
How the hell is he calling Adrian? We've established that all global communications have ceased.
All global ground communication has ceased, sir.
Nice continuity, guys! Adrian is outraged over the death of Satnav. However, his death indicates that the waves will actually hit the ark sooner than predicted. I love the ship's computers that can calculate and detect anything at will. They might as well be on the USS Enterprise. Meanwhile, Jackson happens to find a family travelling to the arks because they hope their brother, who helped build the ships, can get them on. Hey, isn't that Lau from The Dark Knight?
Please, just the children, you don't have to take us. Please!
You better listen to him. He's good at calculation, you know. One of the arks got damaged in the earthquake and it looks like the passengers are going to be left behind. Yuri is amongst them, and if you can guess that he uses boxing skills to punch out a guy, then you can think like a hack. At the same time, Jackson's group are breaking into one of the arks. You have got to be kidding. People are falling to their deaths, but who gives a shit? Look at the cute little doggy. It's like Roland Emmerich deliberately tried to out-stupid the infamous dog outruns explosion sequence in Independence Day. The crowd of people has not gone unnoticed by Adrian, who has a big speech moment speaking to the leaders on the other arks.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Adrian Helmsley, the Chief Science Advisor to the late President Wilson.
I know we've all been forced to make difficult decisions to save our human civilization. If that's true, then there's nothing human and nothing civilized about what we're doing here. I read a quote 2 days ago. The moment we stop fighting for each other, that's the moment that we lose our humanity.
Here's the big problem with this speech. The people outside, they're not the common man. You know, the ones that Adrian has been rooting to survive as a humanitarian. The common man is dead by this point. What you have outside is rich people who paid billions to be on the ark. You know, the same ones you sneered at earlier. I'm not saying they're not worth saving, but this speech seems to be crucially forgetting that key fact, and it reeks of hypocrisy. Not to mention that the arks probably have limited supplies that are rationed, so basically, Adrian, a humanitarian, is all in favour of overcrowding and starvation. Isn't that just as cruel?
Officer, you turn that off. That is an order, sailor! Turn it off!
Don't you dare touch that button, young man!
He is the equivalent of the President of the United States. When he gives you an order, you obey it.
Look at the clock! We have barely 15 minutes left! Everybody out there has died in vain if we start our future with an act of cruelty.
If my father were here, he would open the gates.
You have 15 minutes before a massive tidal wave hits, and if something goes wrong, you doom everyone on the ark. And what then? Oh yeah, twice as many people will die. Of course, this patronising display of sanctimony wins over all the world leaders who agree to open the gates. This is bad news for the Jackson clan climbing through the mechanism. A hose gets wrapped around the gears, Lau is injured, and Gordon, who has expired his use as a pilot, gets crushed in the mechanism. Goodbye, new boyfriend with no chance of survival whatsoever. Appropriately, the gate malfunctions with 4 minutes left until impact. Wait, it took 10 minutes to open a gate? Everyone climbs on board, except Yuri and his kids, who were stupid and got stuck under the gate. Why did he wait when they announced that the door was opening? Oh right, he's an idiot. Of course, Yuri gets his redemption when he manages to get his kids on board at the cost of himself. No! The door fails to shut, which means the ship can't turn on its engines. Just roll with it.
Captain, I think we found the problem.
Who are these people?
No, wait. He's injured. Something must have gone wrong.
Something must have gone. Are you kidding me? Of course something went wrong. You know, congratulations to both of you. Might have gotten us all killed, but as long as your conscience is clean, right, Helmsley?
It's a sign of a bad movie when I side with the slimy antagonist because you know what? He's absolutely right. It was Adrian's fault because he let those people on board and now they're all in jeopardy. Good job, humanitarian! The wave hits and the ship starts filling with water.
Where's Gordon? No! We gotta go back! We gotta go back! We gotta go back!
A sterling bit of acting there from Amanda Peet, showing her raw talent.
We gotta go back! We gotta go back! We gotta go back!
Why she was snubbed by the Academy we'll never know. And you know what makes this even more appalling? This is the only time anyone grieves for him. Not even Jackson's son, who preferred him to his father, is upset about him being horribly crushed. He didn't even seem like that bad a guy. He's literally forgotten like the bit of cardboard he is. The ship starts to flood as chambers start automatically shutting to contain the water. Tamara and Jackson's little girl get separated, and Tamara manages to get her and the dog out before she is sealed in. We're then subjected to the film's most callous death, as Tamara is subjected to a hideous drowning death. What did she do to earn such a grisly fate? Because she had plastic surgery, or because she wasn't personally related to Jackson?
It's Air Force One.
Air Force One impacts with the Ark, rocking it free and setting the boat on a collision course with Everest. With all the water rushing in, they'd be long dead by this point, but no! Jackson's clan is still alive and swimming with nary a regard for things like hypothermia from the freezing cold water. Adrian arrives and uses the radio to inform Jackson of the situation.
Jackson, you're sealed off! We can't get to you! There's something blocking the hydraulics! If you can't get it out, none of us are gonna make it!
It's completely submerged down there. There'd be no way for them to get any air. There's no other way. It's a suicide mission, sir.
Not when you have Jesus Christ, I mean Jackson Curtis! So Jackson goes to swim to the hydraulics to free the hose wrapped around it. And of course, as the film is using global tragedy to rebuild the family unit, the annoying son who didn't like his dad before sneaks off to join him. Many families have been extinguished today, but it's okay because John Cusack's family life is A-okay.
There he is! Captain, we have a visual. I think we found the problem.
Show us the hydraulic chamber.
There's a camera in the hydraulics? Why? What the f... As the boat is about to crash into Everest, Jackson manages to disconnect the hose, restarting the mechanism. The door finally manages to shut, and then the engines start. They're about to run aground! They're past the point where engines would help them! Despite crashing into Everest, causing an avalanche while they're at it, the reverse kicks in and they start driving away. Wow, that was a near catastrophe! Thank you, Adrian and Jackson, for saving the day with your heroics. From a crisis you caused, you blithering idiots! But oh no, Jackson might have been drowned in the process. Of course not, he's Jesus. Did you really think they would kill off John Cusack? He outran a super volcano. This is the kind of shit you see in Disney films. So everyone celebrates with a lot of hugging and screaming, with the exception of Oliver Platt, who wants a new agent. I don't blame him, he single-handedly made this bollocks tolerable. So after some time passes, Laura finishes Jackson's subtle allegory of a book.
It's good. I thought you'd like it. Tell me, Dr. Wilson, apart from books and art, do you think there's anything else we might possibly share?
Like my penis? The captain tells them that the skies have cleared enough for the passengers to go on deck and breathe the fresh air. Yep, not a bit of ash in the sky. I'll put this simply, if Yellowstone erupted, we'd be fucked. Very, very fucked. In fact, Adrian is even informed that the waters are receding and things are beginning to return to normal. And this is only after a few weeks! Bullshit! There is no way these changes would happen that quickly. This would take decades! And the movie wouldn't be over unless we had perhaps the most jaw-droppingly idiotic final lines ever put to celluloid.
You scared?
I'm not. No more pull-ups.
Nice.
Billions are dead, but at least Jackson's daughter doesn't piss herself at night. I've got a warm feeling actually, it's running down my leg. And with that, the movie mercifully ends. And it's about time too, because I'm done with Roland Emmerich thinking that his audience are f***ing idiots. Independence Day had charisma and it knew it was inherently ridiculous. That's why it's so enjoyable. 2012 is not, because it takes the ludicrous things on screen seriously. Despite the valiant efforts of John Cusack, Chiwetel Ejiofor and Arthur Platt, this is a terribly written mess, with atrocious acting from performers like Amanda Peet. Thandie Newton stands around looking pretty with bugger all to do, Danny Glover barely seems interested, and George Segal might as well have been cut out of the movie. Even the visual effects look artificial. The use of green screen just makes it look like the characters are running through Xbox 360 land with no sense of peril. On the plus side, in a few years, people will look back on this scaremongering tripe and laugh. It will be about as relevant as a movie on the Millennium Bug. I'm Matthew Buck, beating down bad movies everywhere!